G'day there, Signets and Swanlings. 2012 Premiership player Nick Smith here. It's my pleasure, as always, to introduce a bevy of bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club, brought to you by Noddy and Stevo, a pair of red and white tragics. So pop on the kettle and settle in as the boys had an in-depth chat about the Swans' last game, the Swans' next game, and a little bit about footy too. This is Nick Smith signing off until next week's episode. But in the meantime, remember, be good to your bloods and they'll be good to you.
Welcome back to a bevy of bloods. My name's Noddy and I'm joined as always by Chris. How you going, mate?
Yes, good, Noddy. Finals coming up, mate. I am pumped. How you going?
Pumped as well, mate. In this episode number 52, we'll be doing a quick review of the close win over the Saints in the last home and away game of the year, as well as an extended preview of the massive game against the Dees next weekend in the first qualifying final for 2022. So fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved bloods. Last Sunday afternoon, our Sydney Swans defeated the St Kilda Saints by 14 points, with us scoring 13-10-88 to their 11-8-74. All right, mate, first impressions, what do you think of that?
First impression was Dan Hanbury. What the hell? Oh, my goodness, this guy. What a wonderful game. What a great way to see it out. And it was, I don't know, reminiscent of his entire career, wasn't it? It was just never say die, tough all the way through, killed us in the clearances, superb game by him. Having said that, he was not in the red and white. He was in the red, black and white. And so the game in itself was surprising. It was a stressful game to watch. And I think the biggest amount of stress came from on behalf of Swans fans, I felt that we had second place secured and we're all happy about that. And then when the Dees absolutely obliterated the Lions and the Lions did not put up a fight, that hurt. It really, really hurt. So, hey, but top three, super happy about that. Can't complain, mate. What about you? First impressions?
Exactly the same, mate. So I won't bother saying the same thing. I'll just launch straight into takeaways. I think in terms of stats, it was a pretty even game, really. It seemed to be another case of not playing our best against a team that was placed below us on the ladder. And look, I think a lot of the Saints players wanted to come out and, a lot of them were playing for contracts and stuff like that. And Max King even to rewrite the embarrassment from the week before. So, Look, I know it's cliched, but I really think it was a case of us not taking our chances when we needed to. If we'd kicked a couple of goals at critical times, then it would have alleviated some pressure. But wasn't meant to be. And then obviously they had a lot of their core players played really well, and even their peripheral players like Long stood up. Steele, Sinclair, Marshall, King were all good for them, as well as Dan Hennebury, as you already mentioned. So as you said, we locked up third. Second was pretty close, but I was stressed, but it's good to get the win. So let's recap the home and away season for 2022. Okay.
Finished up?
Yeah, finished in third, all wrapped up. Obviously down one spot from second the week before. But we finished with 16 wins, 6 losses, sitting behind Melbourne in second and ahead of Collingwood in fourth. We finished on 127.9%, again down from 128.3%. But as you've already said, Melbourne smashing Brisbane up at the Gabba there. They jumped ahead of us on percent. Yep. They finished with about 130.
Yep, the Lions did not help out their East Coast cousins. They could not give any two for it. So it is what it is. But we did manage to play what did it feel like, Noddy? We got into second gear, but we never got going, right?
Yeah, I just think that, I don't know, they stepped up when we needed to. And, I think, a lot's already been said that, a week that we're doing this, we didn't record directly after the game because we both had some work commitments. So we're following up the weekend after. So it's sort of almost
secondary news to a bunch of other things, including finals.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I think we did what we needed to do to win. And we're going to talk about a few of those players and moments. It was sort of frustrating to not, play convincingly so we could shore up second and get the 2 home finals. But look, top 4 and 2 chances is who'd have thought we'd be here this time last year. I think we all predicted in the beginning of the season to finish around 6th again.
Yep, that's right.
So we've bettered that and some. So can't really complain. If we think about it, like from our, we've 16 wins, 6 losses. from the 16 wins, 6 were against eventual top 8 teams. So that's fantastic.
It's really good, yeah.
From our 6 losses, we only lost to Western Bulldogs and Brisbane, who are in the current top 8. We lost to Carlton, but they dropped out of the top 8 in the last round. So,
let's not bring that
brutally
up
for them. Yeah, the Blue Baggers.
Pretty sad moments for the Blues.
Shot themselves in the foot there. But we had 4 losses before the bye: Western Bulldogs, Brisbane, Suns, Carlton, and only 2 after the bye: Port and Essendon. And again, as I said, Western Bulldogs and Brisbane were the only ones to finish in the top 8. So we scored 100-plus points in 10 games, all of which were wins, of which 3 were against the top 8 teams: Geelong, Richmond and Western Bulldogs. The rest were against bottom 10 teams. We finished with the 4th best attack. So Richmond was 1st, Brisbane 2nd, Geelong 3rd, and the 4th best defence: Melbourne 1st, Freo 2nd, Geelong 3rd. We were in the top 8 ever since round 1, ranging from around, I think it was 6th to 2nd.
Yep.
So a very consistent season if you think of it like that. And
totally.
A really great season so far.
Definitely a step up to what we had last year. And I think from memory at the beginning of the year, I think you said 6th would be where we wanted to sit. I was even less gun-ho than that. I said top 8 was happy with me. But to see us fighting for top 2 spot and only losing out in percentage just because the Brisbane Lions didn't want to put up a fight, mate, that's a massive year and definitely a step forward. And at this point, you would have to say that we're on the right path, and because the age of the players, the way that they're playing, everything just seems to be in good stead, and also the way we won some of these games. So we if we didn't win the quarter, we stepped back. The game against the Dockers is an example where we went into the huddle, changed our game plan, came out and were a totally different side with a different tactic and managed to win games on the back of that. So coaching performances have improved. The players have gotten a bit sharper. Just really great year across the board for us. Couldn't say more about it. And there's so much more to come. Like, we've got finals kicking in, and I'm so damn excited. I'm really, really excited. But we'll get to that in a moment. We just got to wrap up this final game of the home and away season now.
You're right, mate. Let's go back to a couple of favourite moments from the Saints game. A couple of standouts. I think everyone would say, I think your favourite moment there.
Chad's goal. Can't complain.
Unbelievable.
Whoa. He was tagged and he still managed to get away and score probably what's going to be the Swans' best goal of the year. So granted, Papley kind of let that one fly too. He let that go through and the bounce just went our way, but that's what you need. You need someone to just have an opportunity, and kicked it from a good solid 65 out, right?
So far out.
I'd probably say a bit more, but
and he burnt his player, just put the jets on
no
10,
chance.
10, 15, 20 metres, and then kick from easy with inside the centre square.
He's had some cracking goals from the centre squares and stoppages, but that's probably his best. That's saying something.
If he puts these goals, because he's starting to do this, right? He's starting to really be that game-changing player that can kick a couple of goals. Like, if he's accurate, he could be Norm Smith medalist. If we get to the grand final, he could be Dusty.
Yep.
He could be that, obviously De Goey in that close loss to the Eagles that's kicking the 3 or 4 goals on game day, if we get that far. Obviously getting ahead of ourselves. But in the game against the Saints, a couple of other amazing moments there, obviously, was Wilbur with his pretty much game-sealing snap at the end. They had a great game. We'll talk about him in a moment. And one other that was flagged was pretty interesting. You want to take that? Yeah,
that was the Paddy McCartan. That was early in the game for, I think, Max King's first goal. There was something happened off the ball. Max King gave a shot into Tommy. Tommy hit the ground, and Paddy McCartan ran back to cover, saw his brother on the ground, and went straight to his brother first. Saw brotherly love over any football, and then walked over. I think he took... was he standing the mark for the goal? I don't know. But either way, straight after the goal, he went straight after Max King, got him to the ground and wanted to let him know how he felt. That was a bit of brotherly love amongst all of this. I couldn't complain. It was a special moment, but Paddy, best on stick to your man, just in case we're coming up to finals. We want you to stick to your man.
It was a bit of chat going on some of the Swans groups there, and I tried to figure out what was going on because there was vision of it, but it was a bit hard to see really what happened. And I think the vision started a couple of seconds too late, and someone had put on a Facebook thread that they were sitting close and they saw Max King had gone for a mark and actually kicked Tom McCartan.
Oh, right.
Like in that sort of Toby Green style get up in a mark and throw a leg in sort of thing. And I think that's where it's come from. And I don't, obviously Paddy's not seen that and gone to his aid. But yeah, I think with you, the takeaway was, it was pretty much 50-50. Swans fans were like, good on you for protecting your brother. The other half was like, what if this was a final? Stick to your man. But at that point in the game, I think we were well ahead. But obviously they came back and almost stole it from us. So your point's exactly like, love your brother, but love your bloods.
Love your bloods. love your other brothers, at least going forward from here on in. But it was a good moment to see anyway, a moment for the game.
Definitely. All right, up next is the A-Bob medal, which is our equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal. The Bevies' best bloods for this game in 3-2-1 points order were Rowbottom, Parker and Hayward. So kick us off with Robo, mate.
Right, Robo, what a game. We were convincingly smashed out of the set of clearances, but we really did the number in the stoppages. And a part of that was Parker and Rowie. But Rowie played an incredible game, really incredible game. His tackles, his possessions, his effort, his pressure acts, everything there was superb. 7 tackles, second in the game. 24 disposals, equal first at Sydney. 7 clearances, best on ground with Ross, Hannahs and Parker. Incredible game, mate. What about you? What about the second placer over there, Parker?
Rowie kicked 1-1 as well to boot.
That's right. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Parks, similarly, mate, just... We say it almost every week, don't we? Just Parker doing Parker things. Should get that on a T-shirt. 20 disposals, equal 4th for Sydney. So not prolific, but, just impactful. 80% disposal efficiency. So that's good to see from Parks. 7 clearances, as you said, equal best on ground with those other players. And 4 tackles. Was just amongst it, just contributed. How about Wilbur? Finish with Wilbur.
Super happy with Wilbur's game. I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago that he's in the last, say, 6 or 7 games he's played out of his skin, and not necessarily from the stats perspective, but just in his quality of play, his positioning, his contesting. And this game was exactly that, but only the numbers really came through for him. So kicking 3 and 1, including that sealer at the end there, and just seemed to be the most lively tool around the whole game. And that was massive for us when we really needed contested possessions, where we needed the help down the line. It seemed like everywhere. It seemed like he was playing like a mids game. So massive game from Wilbur. Massive game.
Great set of hands. Horse was quoted afterwards saying, obviously Hayward had a great game, but I think he's pretty proud of him. Previously, on the record as saying a bit of a coach's pet, but Horse said he's been solid all year. The work that he puts in, you don't always see, but he obviously had a great finish to the game. So just goes to show that the roles within the team, it's not always about game winning moments. It's the small things, the 1%ers, all that sort of stuff, and Wilbur's consistently amongst it. And obviously Horse is very happy with that. So any honourable mentions, mate?
I've just got the one. Heaney, I think, goes without saying. You watch the game, you see what the impact he had. And not only in the impact in the forward line, he was really good in pressure and tackles and everything else. So he had his 2 goals, but he also had 15 possessions, contested possessions to go with it. So he wasn't getting them cheaply. He was really in the mix. And I think that's 3 weeks in a row for Heaney showing true class and coming back into his stellar form. So priming up at the right time of the year. That's all we can say about Heaney.
Definitely. And we'll round out there with coaches' votes. So Ben Long got 10 points. I think he took like 1 billion marks. It was the most ever for him. King obviously rebounded, kicking 5-zip from his week before, kicking 0-5. Rowie on 5 points, Hayward on 3, and Sinclair on 1. So a couple of bloods there amongst it from the coaches. Good to see. All right, we're going to move on to hot topics. So we're going to talk about injuries, how the VFL lads went, and any changes we might make leading into the game ahead. So injuries, obviously, Papley bumped into Buddy.
Yep.
And went off.
Yep. After his goal, by the way.
After his goal, yeah. With protocols. And luckily, and we're going to get into this in the preview, we're announced as playing the Friday night.
That's right.
So that will land on the 12th day.
That's right.
Papley will be available should he get through all the
necessary checks along the way.
Exactly. Yep, so that's good.
That was a scary moment there, because if we had that Thursday game, we miss him.
Yeah. Actually, there was a question that it was a bit awkward in the post-game press conference. One of the journos asked that of Horse, and he said, well, it's common sense. And they're like, what's common sense? It's like, well, we're a top 4 finisher.
Yeah.
We're the last game of the round. Why would you put us first?
That's right.
So yeah,
even arguably putting them second is a bit of a G-up, but
totally.
It is what it is. So,
yeah. So all right, let's jump ahead to the VFL. So yesterday, by the time we're recording this, the Casey Demons smashed the Sydney Swans VFL team, unfortunately. It was close to half-time, and then Casey Demon just ran away in the second half, ended up beating us by about 50. Of the Bloods that played that day, Amati, Ronk, Campbell, Gould, Sheldrick, I think were all pretty solid. Laddams played okay as well, as did Sinclair. But I think Laddams may end up with a match suspension because he put a shot on Taj Woden off the ball after the play, and he got a bloody nose. And
do those suspensions in the VFL also carry over to the AFL? I'm assuming so.
I think so, because wasn't Paddy McCartan unavailable? No, actually, that was last year and he wasn't listed.
He wasn't listed at the time. But nonetheless, I'd imagine it only makes sense for it to carry over to AFL.
I think it must. Yeah. I think it must. So that's one to watch. But I think that we probably won't, and this is more of the question here, are we tinkering, if there's no injuries, are we tinkering with the team?
As it stands now, look, the only one that you would consider, everyone seems to be playing their role, playing really well, and seems to be firing off at the right time. Logan McDonald, I feel, is probably still the one that most fans might say, look, does he stay or does he go? He's maybe not kicking as many goals as you arguably want from your tall forward, from your explosive forward there, but Amati can probably roll in. He's obviously playing very well in the VFL. He's mentioned as best on ground in the VFL every single week. And I think he made best team, AA or whatever the equivalent is, VFL best players, right?
That's right. Him, Gould, Lewis Taylor.
That's right.
And I think that was it from the Swannies.
Yeah. So
squad.
There's a good chance that he probably can roll in, but Logan McDonald is playing his role. He's playing a really good role. He was getting around at the Saints game very, very well. He's been putting on pressure. It's just looking tidy. So what do you think?
He's kicked a couple, and I think it was important that he's finally kicked, because I a couple of episodes ago, I made the point that, in the past, pretty much since the bye, in the same amount of games, whether it's AFL or VFL, Amati had kicked whatever it was at that point, 11-4, and Logan had kicked 3-11 or something like that, So Amati was clearly, in better touch, I think, like in terms of kicking. But I'm pretty happy to leave Logan in there because he got a couple of goals.
Yep.
I think it was important that he actually converted, because the work, as you're saying, the work he's doing around the ground is really great, and it's contributing, it's role playing. But it's great to get that sort of reward for effort as well.
That's right.
But yeah, Amati was sensational really against Casey Demons. He was a great target. He was taking some cleanly, otherwise he'd bring it ground. I think he kicked a couple himself as well. So McLean didn't play, so I don't know if he's injured or they were resting him,
right,
potentially as like an emergency
for the AFL,
for the AFL.
Yeah.
But Ronk kicked 4, so we've got a busy small forward ready to go. He looked better than Wicks, and Bell, I think you could throw in the mix as well. Campbell again sort of just was played a role, as did Gussie, as did Matty Roberts. Gould, look, I honestly think that the only reason Gould is not playing AFL is because Dane Rampy's still around.
Right, and he's still effective.
Yeah. Rampy,
Rampy's still very effective.
Think of the Collingwood game, right?
That's
Kicks a goal, and then the
smother someone else. What about Wicks? So Wicks came in as the emergency for Papley, played the majority of the game. I think Papley went off halfway through the first quarter, maybe.
Right, yeah. I thought he was ineffective, but
I felt so, yeah.
But I think it's always tough having been out of the team for a while. He's the kind of player that would play into the AFL team as he's done before, and he's played a role really well before. So it's a bit unfortunate for him, I think, just the timing.
Yeah.
But he, at the same time, the Casey Demons finished first in the VFL, so he had a really good opportunity to have a good crack against a pretty good midfield. and they had a stack of AFL players as well. So, and I just think he probably didn't do enough to press his claim.
Yeah, he may have been playing out of his regular role as well in that.
He was playing more midfield.
Yeah, he's been playing more midfield, and he kind of had to roll into that Papley line, which has been changing. So it was a bit tough for him. He did seem like the speed of the game was a touch beyond him. He made a couple of dodgy contests. Thankfully, got a free kick off the back of a bit of niggly with one of the players there. But look, you'd imagine that it's still up in the mix. He's not solidified his position as being that easy run on Medi sub. You'd have to imagine that for this week. Yeah, you're looking at whoever's in touch, and it could be anyone. So his role is still up for grabs, and I don't think any one of those forwards, or any of those small forwards anyway, so your Bell, your Ronk, your Wicks, none of them have solidified their role, which is a good thing in some ways because there's plenty of competition, but not enough of them have really done anything to really shut it down. So we're still in a position where we don't know what's going to happen. It all comes down to how each line, forwards, backs, mids, how they're all travelling, really.
And I just think the fact that we're on that, what was it, 6 or 7 game win streak?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, and that coincides with the likes of Fox and Clark coming in and us putting it together. I just think that, even though Jack Sinclair had a high disposal game,
he got away.
Yeah, Clark, he got a little bit away from him, but it was the second time we played, like in recent times, so he remembered, what he did. But I still think probably Clark holds over the likes of these guys we're talking about.
I'd have to say so. Yeah. I'd have to say so. Like they do have. I think they got away just because he's got explosive speed, and he went a bit more mid, and he managed to find his way away from him. So, and then Clark just basically had to change his style, where we started playing more of that more traditional kind of forward role there. So that's not necessarily his game. His game is to shut down people. So I think Clark's going to learn a lot about this. He's going to see when his man gets away from him. I'm sure Horse and him is going to work out a way for him to still be effective, no matter where they play runs around the ground. Because the same thing happened with Nick Dacos. His man just walked away from him, right? And Clark absolutely shut him down, and then he just went away from him and had a little bit more disposal and a bit more effectiveness. So that's the second week in a row that his direct man has found a different position around the ground and found some effectiveness. So maybe there's just something to be learnt there, but I don't think it is what it is.
I think Clark, he doesn't always follow.
He doesn't.
Yeah, so he just takes whoever moves into that position on the field. So, you got to look at it like that. You can't just say,
because he sat on Howell at that point against Collingwood, and then it was effective against Howell. So
exactly,
it really sits on that moment.
So I think we're both saying no changes.
I say no changes. I dare say that Wicks probably rolls off Medisub, and you replace that with, I don't know, whoever was kind of playing hot at the time. It's hard to know.
I mean,
Ronk, maybe.
Do we go with a tall? Probably not. We probably go with a hybrid, right? Someone that can play a little bit of everything. And in recent times, it's been Wicks, Ronk, Campbell's been in the mix.
Yep.
So it's probably going to be one of these guys. I don't think, and I've left Cunningham out here. So he played okay. He had a couple of absolute clangers, but in terms of experience, you might go with him. But
he's played plenty of finals, and he can play anywhere in that back line, play a bit of wing. He's got the smarts for it, and he's a good leader back there. He knows exactly the game. So that's a tough one. Like, do you see him coming in as the Medi sub just because he can be pretty flexible no matter what's going on?
I mean, he hasn't been Medi sub recently, but maybe that's been to get a bit of game time. So with the outlook of coming in as support for the finals, but anyway, we'll have to wait and see. But the point is, Horse also said this in the post match. Said that Casey Demon's finishing first and the Swans seconds finishing fourth. Both sides have got like really good depth lines, which is a great position to be in for obviously us and by default them as well. So we're good for depth. I reckon no changes, but we'll just have to wait and see. So, mate, obviously with the home and away season finishing, 10 teams have bowed out. So it's sort of accolade season, and we've got a couple running around at the moment. I'll kick off with 22 under 22. So this is the one where 22 players under 22 years of age. There's a squad selected by an ex-player, Michael Barlow, with the help of Champion Data, and then the final team is selected by by the fans, fan voted. So the Bloods had a fair few players, most of any nominated. We had Lizard, Tom McCartan, Chad, Rowbottom, Juzzy, and Errol all nominated. And selected was Tommy McCartan for his second year in a row, Chad for his first time, and Lizard for his first time.
Yeah.
So Errol, Juzzy, and Rowie missed out.
And Errol really unlucky to get in, I think. Really unlucky. I think someone looking at some of those players in the mix, I dare say that there's just not enough Swans fans putting votes in. But it is what it is. I think Ginnivan was one of the players that I kind of questioned. I think I put a tweet out to see the stats difference between Ginnivan and Errol, albeit different roles. Of course, you're looking at different kind of metrics, but I don't understand how Errol did not get into the team just because of the quality of play. So, but hey, it is what it is. We're just super happy. Like you said, the most of any team, I think we tied with the Dockers. So to get nominated, can't complain with that, man. And I think it just goes to show that all of this hunting for the young players is really paying off and paying off way faster than we ever expected to.
Yeah, so the Pies had three. Again, they finished fourth. So they had three. They had Nick Dacos, Jack Ginnivan, as you said, and Isaac Quaynor. So, I mean, look, I probably would have put Errol in front of Quaynor, but he was listed on the interchange bench. But yeah, as you said, a bit stiff, but still good recognition coming through, and they'll be in the mix for a long time in the future, mate. How about the All-Australian?
The big All-Australian. Now, yeah, it comes to this time of the year when you start flagging all of the great players that you've got in the team and how well they've done consistently throughout the season. We had ourselves nominated Heaney, Mills, Papley, and Warner. You would not fault those names. I think those four names are fantastic in the mix, especially with Papley. I think he missed the first 6 games, right? So with his hammy. So for him to be in the mix, brilliant. Parker is really stiff to not get a nomination. I think he played blisteringly well. I dare say a little bit better than Warner as a consistent game throughout the year, but it is what it is. But the final votes came in and we got ourselves our 2 academy boys, Millsy and Heaney with the jackets. Man, what a journey for these two. All the way from the academy, Sydney products, all the way through to wearing a jacket, all Australians now, forever. Mate, just goes to show that the academy really came through, and maybe Eddie Maguire had an actual point where it's a dangerous unit to give us. But, so happy for him, really, really happy for him. It looked good to see them in the mix. And I saw these photos of them being children, babies, all the way to them wearing these jackets, grown men. Lovely to see.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked for them. And finally, we're getting that top-level recognition.
That's right.
I mean, we've been calling it for Millsy for at least the past 3 years. And Heat, obviously, he is just an absolute star. So, eventually I think we'll probably pad that out a little bit more, obviously with the players that missed out this year, but even some of our other players, I think they're just going to get better and better. So really great. And next one we're going to look at is AFLPA, so the Players Association. So there's 4 categories here they look at, and this is obviously voted by their peers, by the players themselves. We've got MVP, Courageous, Best First Year Player, and Best Captain. So nominated for Swans MVP was Mills, Warner, Heaney. Most Courageous was Paddy McCartan. Best First Year Player was Matty Roberts. Best Captain was all of our captains, Mills, Rampy, and Parker. In the end, the MVP went to Andy Brayshaw from the Dockers.
Fair enough.
Solid
Absolutely.
season. I think youngest player to have won it in quite a while, so well done to him. Liam Baker from the Tigers won Most Courageous. I'm
solid.
Scratching my head there. But, Nick Dacos obviously won Best First Year Player.
Yep, can't fault that.
Yeah, with Rising Star. So well played. And Pendlebury, Best Captain. I also can't fault that.
No.
The guy just steps up. He's unbelievable, isn't he?
He's great in the media. He's great on the field. He just seems like the perfect captain. Really does.
Yep. So good stuff there. I think we're on to AFLW, mate, and this is hot off the press. You were at the game last night.
Hot off the press at the game last night, 8,200 people. It was at North Sydney Oval against the Saints. It was a genuine buzz in the air. It was a really, really fantastic day. I thought it was going to be a massive crowd, and I'm really thankful that it came through. All the way from the very beginning of the game, when the girls turned up, they actually went through a guard of honor of Swans fans. And if you're interested, go have a look at the videos, because there was a bunch of Swans fans already there cheering them on as they were just walking into the ground. And that just goes to show the amount of support that the Swannies club and fans are putting behind this team. The first goal went to Brivatelli. Good on her. Great goal. Lovely. It was a really entertaining game, but you could just see the Saints were just a better team. So just a better team across the board, had a bit more nuance around how the game was played. Their big forward, I forgot her name, but she was just too good, too big, too strong. But we played a really nice game. Unfortunately, Montana Ham seemed to have done something to her leg. So up until now, I haven't heard anything of what exactly it was, but she did seem to walk herself off at the end of coming off the field, as in she put some weight on that leg. So good signs. But really, that's not what the game was all about. Last night's game was about introducing the AFLW to the Swans club, and the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life, where you've got a bunch of young, and I'd say, 10-year-old girls all starting the Sydney chant. There's nothing greater in football than hearing that. It just goes to show that the AFLW is well needed in the comp, and it's just well needed in sports generally. So super happy. I took my grandparents, my granddad, my mum, and they all had a great time. Taught them a lot about the game along the way. So cracking day.
You told me your granddad did a halftime report in Spanish. Is that right?
He did a halftime report in Spanish. So I'll be releasing that during the week. So for the listeners, we're Chilean background. So I'll get that out. So any Spanish listeners can get some of that coming action your way.
Good stuff, mate. Let me read out Steve-O's notes, because he's obviously a pretty big fan as well.
Mm-hmm.
So just here verbatim from Steve-O. Just finished watching the game on a bit of a delay. They were well beaten, but not embarrassed. Managed a goal in each quarter. There was a clear gap between the teams, though the Saints were 13th, 14th last year. Some nice movement through the middle at times, but couldn't buy a mark inside 50. Good signs from some of our young ones on debut. Ham, as Chris has said, hurt her knee late though. Heads, Cynthia Hamilton, Morfitt from GWS, not on debut, but still just 19-year-old and went hard in the ruck. He said the ground looked full. It looked beautiful. I saw some of your pictures,
mate. It felt like a full game, and we were sitting. Majority of people were sitting on the fence. So the poor people that rocked up early to get a good view from behind, from a couple of seats behind, they had no chance because the fence was just filled up. But there was no aggro. It's just one of those good feel footy moments, like community football. It was just a lovely day with lots and lots of families there. It was cracker.
That's awesome. North Sydney Oval obviously used to be the home of the North Sydney Bears.
Yeah.
But more recently, it's a cricket oval for club and also the North Sydney Rugby Union team.
It's a great spot to watch a footy game. I think Jules mentioned that a while back to say, like,
beautiful view, right?
From every angle, it's fantastic. It's very, very flat, so you get a good view from wherever you are. It's lit up perfectly. It was, cracking day. So the next game, I believe, they haven't picked a place for it, but they're playing against GWS in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then I know there's Henson Oval, which is going to go off.
I'm going to go to that one.
It's going to go crazy.
I think that's an Arvo game. And
get your tickets early, because I can tell you right now, from seeing what North Sydney was about, your inner west Swans fans are going to go ballistic. So make sure you get your tickets for that game early.
That's awesome, mate. All right, well, obviously, what was about 30 points in the end, 50 odd to
just
20
about,
odd. So
exactly,
they'll learn heaps from this and have a really good crack next couple of games. So looking forward to that. Mate, a couple of things I forgot to mention. Back to the Swannies, they're obviously a bit in the news. The Warner Brothers have both extended their contracts until 2025 each. You beauty. Couple of other contract-related points there. Jake Lloyd and Harry Cunningham are in the midst of talks, but I think Lloydie has elected to postpone until off season. We're not quite sure what Harry's doing, but we're thinking maybe similar sort of thing. Obviously, there's a fair bit of cash to potentially go around with the retirements of Joey and maybe Buddy, depending how we go this year. So, question without notice: would you extend Lloyd and Cunningham for more than 2 years each?
I think Cunningham's just about on his way out. I kind of feel like I'm
2 years for Cunningham.
I think 2 years is enough. I think I wouldn't do more than that.
What about Lloyd? How many years for Lloyd?
See,
I think he was wanting 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't blame Lloyd. I think Lloydie he's got his 3 or 4 years left of being quite effective. We saw what he was at the beginning of this year. He was just all over the shop, and he pulled himself out together and had to change his role. And good on him. Really happy the way he's playing now, but I don't see it being something that I would necessarily be chasing to give him 3 or 4. What do you think?
I'm with you, mate. Like, I think he's certainly in our best team, and he's certainly a really good player. He's BNF last year, or and he's been in AA squad before. Like, he's a top tier player. He does get a lot of his disposals from kick-ins, but a lot of players do, so you can't fault him on that. I think he's really stepped up his defensive efforts this year, and you've mentioned that throughout the potty this year. And I just don't know if I'd give him 3 or 4 at the behest, to risk an up-and-comer.
Yeah, to risk like a Campbell getting more opportunity, for sure.
Yeah. So I think both of these guys, certainly solid. Want them there for the next couple of years, but not if we run the risk of losing an up-and-comer. So,
yeah, like Colin O'Regan was on his way to taking over his spot earlier this year.
Well, that's it. We've got these guys that can actually play the role, and arguably not on big money either.
That's right.
So we can that would be a clever move from the club, I think.
Bit of a shame. I think there's no doubt at all that Lloyd has been an absolute steward of it. Like, he's been incredible for us. He's one of the best players that we've had in the modern time, just his consistency. But it just goes to show that in his role, we've just managed to have hired well. We've trained well, and we've just got excess. So not saying nothing against Lloydie. It's just business is football. Football is business, and I kind of see 2 years is about the limit I'd be interested in giving.
I mean, at this point in the season, I can't remember where Foxy's at, but I'd be inclined to give Foxy more. Yeah. I think they're a similar age profile, similar position, right? But I just think Foxy's he's just bringing so much at the moment. But it's all timing, it's all management, it's how good you are in negotiations. So
it's skill sets, isn't it? Because I mean, Rampy and Lloydie and Cunningham worked so well together for a while there. Yeah. We've got a whole new back line. We've got the 2 McCartan boys running in there. You've got Foxy running in there.
Blakey, Ollie.
Yeah. So and eventually Will Gould's going to get in there as well. So you have to look at what the dynamics of that team look like before we even think about what kind of player you want in that spot.
The other one, sorry, I'll mention right now, and that reminded me, and I left it out in the VFL summary, Lockie Rankin is an absolute cracker.
Yeah.
He's going to be a brilliant lockdown defender. And like, he has the foot skills of like Steele side bottom or Lockie Whitfield. Wow. Like I think I texted the group. He did this amazing left foot lace out inside 50 to Matty Roberts, who then bloody missed. But the kick on his, because when I was watching his draft footage, I was wondering if he was left or right, because he would do as good his kicking was as good on either foot. So it's just another example of a player that is waiting in the wings that will come good in the next couple of years. So it's about how much cash we've got. It's about what who the club thinks is going to be the key players going forward and the depth players going forward.
That's right.
So I think that's what's going to frame those contract chats. But
I think this end of season, when we do get to the point of talking about what next year's contracts look like, it's going to be tricky. It's going to, you're looking at Reed. Yeah. He's probably not got another year in him, you'd imagine, although he's playing his best year for some time now. Yeah. Hickey, of course, he's getting on. I think his year extends into next year, perhaps. So yeah, but then you've got Matty Roberts, you've got Sheldrick, you've got some of these other boys that Laddams, of course.
He's on for another couple, and on that, Cal Sinclair, I think,
announced retirement.
Yeah, and that was, I think, one of the commentators during the VFL announced that. So if he's, hanging up the boots, and also Sam Naismith, Ham Crayfish, if he's not going to bounce back, and I mean he may, fingers crossed he does, but that's 2 talls that might go out. So that bodes well for Reedy and potentially Hickey for a further extension. But Laddams has just got to come good, have a big off season. But yeah, you're right. This is a conversation for if and when we finish the season. Sorry, when we finish the season. Yeah, if the season will go on forever. All right, so without further ado, mate, let's get on to the juicy part. We're going to do a pretty juicy preview here. Okay, so Friday, the 2nd of September, 2022, 7:50 local time at the MCG. Melbourne in second place versus Sydney in third place. It's the first qualifying final. It's going to be massive.
Oh, my God. This is a game of ages. We missed out in second place, but either way, we're going to be playing Melbourne, right? Yep. So it's going to be Melbourne, Sydney, either at SCG or the MCG.
Yep. We can play either. We'll play the SCG. We'll play the MCG wherever, man.
Yeah, we have a good record at both of these venues. So let's just get on with the game. I think. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know where to start.
Let me set the scene.
Go.
So Melbourne they finished second, and they were same as us, 16 wins, 6 losses. But they, as we said earlier, they really pumped their percentage by smashing the hapless Lions at the Gabba last weekend. So they got 130.5%, and they jumped in a second. They've had, as I said, 16 wins, mostly against bottom 10 teams. The losses have been against all top 8 teams, as you would think. That's fairly logical. One of those has been us, and we'll get onto that in a second. They've lost to Collingwood twice. We've obviously beat Collingwood at home, so something to think about there. But their run home. Let me jump ahead to their last 5 games. So their run home, and we talked about this a couple of episodes ago, compared to our run home, theirs was much harder. So in their past 5 games, they played Brisbane at the Gabba, Carlton at the MCG, Collingwood at the MCG, Fremantle at Optus, and Western Bulldogs at Marvel.
Dare we say they were a massive pass mark. They passed very well.
They did.
There was a couple of games there where, like the Carlton game, that was dropped.
God.
Carlton lost that game.
Oh, my
Dees didn't quite win that.
Cozzy Pickett,
get out of here. But they
and the Collingwood game, really.
The Collingwood game, they should have smashed them. But the numbers show that they should have smashed them, but they didn't. So but either way, they had an incredible run home, and they've done the goods. And I just find them as a very dangerous team. They are firing off at the right time. They're a dangerous, dangerous team across the board there.
They've had 2 big wins in those 5, right? They beat the Lions by 58 away, as I think most Swans were watching that just like, head in hands.
Screaming at the TV. Come on, Fagan, do something.
Come on, more sledging.
No, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
But then they beat the big one, I think, for them, and this would have been pretty confidence building for them, was beating the Dockers by 46 away. Yeah. That's a pretty big win. But then to come back and lose to the Dogs by 10 at Marvel. So it's hard for me to read their form line there. They've had some big wins, some close losses, one that they won closely, and a couple they've lost closely. So whereas you look at us, right? Okay, so in our last 5, we beat the Saints away. We beat Collingwood at home in probably one of our best games of the year. We beat North away. We beat the Giants at home, and then the Crows at home. Yeah. So much easier run home.
You'd imagine so. You'd have to say with the names that we said there, we had an easier run.
Yeah.
We were convincing on a couple of those games. A couple we weren't. The North game, the St Kilda game, both of those games were kind of, in watching it, pretty ordinary. Like we weren't at our best, but then we played against Collingwood, what was a convincing win.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to say.
Before that, I'll add to that Freo away, and you mentioned earlier in the podcast that was one of our best tactical games of the year, coaching wise. And then the Dogs we thrashed, really. Yeah. So and that's our 7 game win streak to finish the season, and really. Port Adelaide away, that was 50-50, but Essendon, we should have won that.
Yeah.
And so that would have been a 9 game streak.
Did you see the article where Heaney was actually talking about the Bombers game? After that loss, the leaders all pulled him into a room and had a honest chat with him to say this was not good enough. That quality of football was not going to win us finals. And since that moment, they pulled together, hey, let's coincide with the win streak, really. So it seems like the drive by the seniors, by the veterans, is no joke. They see this team as being able to win it, and they're forcing them to get on par, basically.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Let's look at our previous 5 encounters against the Dees. Okay, so round 12 this year, as we said, the Swannies got up by 12 at the MCG. Last year, round 8, Melbourne got up by 9 at the MCG, and that was one we bloody should have won. Round 15 in 2020, that was up at Kazali's. Juzzy kicked 2 up in the sweltering heat. That was a good win, 21 points to us. 2019, we played them twice, round 4, round 22. We won once at the MCG, 53 points. They won once, 22 at the SCG. Look, that's quite a while ago. So if we just think about the last 2 games, they've been close games, 9 points and 12 points.
That's right.
Let's look at the last game. We've got a couple of notes here. The last game this year, where we beat them by 12 at the MCG, which was one of our really big wins of the year.
That's when we started believing at that point.
Totally. Let's talk about that.
Look, that game was a superb game. If everyone remembers, that was the one where Gawn absolutely went bananas. He'd had hit outs over 60%, had 20 disposals odd, kicked a few goals. He was on absolute fire. And at the same time, so was Sammy Reid. Sammy Reid injected himself into the game. A few hit outs, 3 goals, 10 tackles by your ruckman. Laddams had to come off the ground for a little while there for a busted ass thumb. And Reedy stepped up, did he ever. He really had a great game. So Logan McDonald also with 3 goals from memory. So
big outs that day, Buddy Franklin.
That's right.
With his finger, but also Stephen May was out.
And
so
you have to imagine they cancel each other out. That's right.
And that's probably one of the reasons Logan ended up kicking 3, because he ends up kicking more
when Buddy's not around.
There.
So, massive game. And I think they got off to a really strong start. They got off, I don't know how many points ahead they ended up getting in the first quarter. And we then pulled them back. And then it became an absolute arm wrestle for the rest of the game, where each team's just trading goals, trading scoring shots. And then we ended up winning by, what was it, 12 Noddy or so?
12, yeah.
12 in the last quarter. I think just about halfway through that last quarter, we got up with a bit of Papley magic as well. So they were an absolute opponent. And when we won that game, and as fierce as both teams played, that was a genuine moment when Swans fans kind of went, you know what, this is a special team. We took it to the best in the comp at that point, just in terms of strength, and we really gave it to them. Believed it all the way through. So that's the game. We got Gawn, who can run away with the game. I dare say Hickey is going to hopefully pull him and rein him in a little bit more. But those midfielders, they're no joke, Noddy. They are no joke.
Even that game, Viney, 32 disposals, 5 clearances, 5 scoring involvements. I feel like he's gotten better since then.
I think so too.
Oliver, obviously, he gets all the accolades. His most disposals this year is in the AA. That day, he got 29 touches, 7 clearances, 7 intercepts. Yeah. So that, it's the same. It's the usual suspects, right? It's Viney, Oliver, Petrarca, Gawn. Up back, they got their 1-2 combo, May and Lever.
Yep.
Tomlinson stepped in for May that day. Tomlinson played in the VFL game yesterday and played pretty well, might I add. But everyone else seems pretty similar. They've got Brayshaw, Petty, and Salem rocking it. Hunt as well is in the mix. I think James Jordan is one that isn't in the team at the moment, and I think that's for the likes of maybe Sparrow, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me. But otherwise, Mitch Brown played that day. He's also in the VFL. Ben Brown stepped up. Fritsch has stepped up. Tom McDonald was not in that team that day either.
No.
And he's just come back from a foot injury from a couple of weeks, and he played against the Swans in the VFL and played okay. So they've got a few players that they can look at if they want to make changes. But given what we spoke about, Melbourne's last 5, especially the way that they finished against Brisbane, I don't know if they'd be looking at making any changes.
No, and I think if we look at how their season looked even last year when they went on that mad premiership run, they tailed off at the about same time in the season that they have this year, where they kind of weren't playing at their full potential. Some of their players were a bit lackluster. They had a couple of injuries, and they've started pulling those players back, all with the exception of Tom McDonald, who even may come back this week. So, look, they are a dangerous outfit. They are basically primed in the exact same way as they were last year. So this is a no-joke game with the Swans. If we look at the stats between the two teams just generally, they get more possessions generally. They use the handball way more than we do. Was that plus 25? But our tackles really offset that at plus 8.5. So 8-9 tackles per game, which is quite a bit. So, but in the rest of the metrics, we're about par, mate. It's a really interesting setup. So goal assist, inside 50s, disposal efficiency, clangers, contested marks inside 50, clearances, centre clearances, stoppage clearances, and rebound 50s, just about on par with Swans and Dees. A very interesting makeup. Two teams playing very different styles, same metrics effectively in the end.
Yeah. I'm just going to touch back on a couple of the ins and outs, the changes of the structures from the last time we played.
Yeah.
Right. So Wixie and O'Riordan were in at that time. They've obviously come out, been really supplanted by Fox and Clark, who have really cemented their role.
Mm-hmm.
For them, as I was saying, that was James Jordan and Salem. I think since then, Melksham, who was punch buddy with Stephen May halfway through the season, has come in for... obviously someone there, and obviously Harms, one of their really solid role-playing midfielders, has come back in, I think, and pushed James Jordan out. And I'm not sure how Salem is running. He might be injured, but it's looking like he didn't play against the Lions. So I'm thinking they just roll on. Like, they've got a very good team. They've got a very good team. They've got a really good synergy. They've got really good role players. Neil Bullen.
Everyone knows their role in that team.
Exactly.
It's scary.
Yeah. Langdon is incredible. Langdon is one I'm hoping our Dill Stevens becomes.
He runs all day. And he's got the skill sets, good foot skills.
Bowie, Hunt, even Hibbard. And maybe Salem comes in for Hibbard. But
the thing about watching the Brisbane game that was insanely disappointing, just considering we know what their role players are. Like I was saying to someone online the other day that you compare apples and oranges when you're talking football, because everyone's got a different role. A perfect team is like a good fruit salad. Everything just needs to be perfect, right? Everyone needs to have their own skill sets and be effective while they're doing it. Brisbane knows the game style, right, of the Dees. Surely they've done their homework. They kept pumping on the top of Danaher's head, despite him being double tagged the entire game. They did nothing to stop that. They gave up on that moment.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really hoping that we're able to disrupt that, because there's no joke that they want you to pump it over someone's head. They know how to play that better than anyone else in the game. They've been doing it for 2 years now. So Buddy, he's not a overhead marking guy, although this year he's been playing decently there. So it maybe runs in our favour, although May versus Buddy, May normally has his number.
Yeah.
So it is just a tricky game to really put a number on, I think.
Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think, other than these two areas, movement by handball as opposed to tackle pressure, very similar sort of makeups. If you think about it, we've got the McCartan brothers, and then you've got Blakey and Lloyd who can feed off their half back line. They've got May and Lever, excuse me, and then obviously Angus Brayshaw, who's playing very well down there as well. So you're right. I think we just can't afford to get in the habit of going long. Our forward entries have to be clever, but we really have to stop their centre clearance and the handballs and the, Gawn, Viney, Oliver, Petrarca inside 50.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It happens enough times in the game that you go, how do you stop that? And they're all of those players you just mentioned are the best in what they do, arguably in each craft, or one of the best in the comp. They're all powerful. They're all very, very strong. And Gawn has been the dominant ruckman in the last 5 years. It is a brutal midfield, and that's the key to stopping their success. What scared me against the game in the Saints, we were lackluster in our centre clearance. We were really lackluster. We were great in the stoppage clearances somehow, but the centre clearances, we were poor. So he's hoping that we've found a way to at least put more body on them than Brisbane did, because Brisbane weren't even close to them half the bloody time.
It's got to be body. I think you're right.
Yeah.
We've really got to, we're like second in the comp for tackling, right?
Yeah.
And they're 16th. As you've already said, we average about 8 or 9 more tackles a game. And that's not, that's around the ground and inside 50. It's both. Sorry, that's just around the ground. It's not inside 50. But, if we can hold them there, and stop their forward momentum, then I think we've got enough to be able to counter punch and move it back in the other direction. We've got really good foot users by foot, obviously, but
which is better than their side. That's one skill set and a metric that we do excel in. Disposals on foot.
But if they do, either side going forward, we're both going to have our chances. I think we've got more avenues to goal, but I'm being optimistic. We look at the main threats on goal is in the amount of players that both sides have in the top 100 goal kickers. Melbourne has 5. Fritsch on 50, Cozzy on 38, Brown on 29, Petrarca on 19, and Tom McDonald 15. And he's, as we said earlier,
injuries
touch
mostly.
and go. Yeah. So the Swannies have Buddy on 50, Heat, Heaney on 46, Hayward on 31, Papley on 26, Goulden on 18, Warner on 17, Reid on 15, Logan on 14. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players in the top 100 goal kickers of this year. Luke Parker is a close behind on 12, but he's not in the top 100. So,
and I know, and although Logan's in that mix, he hasn't played every game.
Yeah,
he's missed quite a lot of seniors footy, and so is Amadi. And I think Amadi is not far off the line of Parker. So
yeah, I agree.
It's looking. As you mentioned, I think we do have way more avenues to goal from the midfield more so, and the wingers and whatnot. We can kind of roll them up more so than Melbourne. But like I said, Melbourne plays their roles very, very well. Cozzy Pickett seems to be in the perfect positioning all the time for just a scrapper. So it is they're a tough team to play against.
Who takes Cozzy?
Who takes Cozzy? There's no one in our team that is a good mix for that. Who sits on a small forward?
I think you're right. I think it's going to be Ollie or maybe Fox, but then he's a little.
Fox is way too big and runs too well in offence than that. So, yeah, maybe Ollie, but even then, like, I know Ollie's had a couple of tags along the way there and he's actually done a decent job at it. But I don't know, even against Ollie, Cozzy Pickett's just too explosive, too quick,
Fritsch.
too random.
Fritsch is going to be, I mean, maybe Fox gets Fritsch.
I feel Fox gets Fritsch,
because Fritsch is pretty mobile, similar height profile. I think they're a bit taller than us. And Steve-O is one that he doesn't buy into the height thing because, defense is all about timing and sticking with your man and body weight and stuff like that. But you got Luke Jackson, who's 200 centimetres, pretty much 199. You got Ben Brown, who's 200. Gone. I mean, this is going to sound cliched, but if we can stop Gone, I think we'll go a fair way to winning this game.
Yeah,
I know that's just one player, but he's so influential.
He's so influential, and his hit-outs are so successful. And he's able, and when he does roll up forward, he's always managing to be in the right position again, and then contest a mark or just get an easy mark. He's freaking big. So, but I know that Tom Hickey can run with him. Gawn runs a lot. He tries to outrun his opponent. He's insanely fit. He's been working on that a lot in his last few years, and he found success, and that's why he kept at it. But Tom Hickey is also one of those players that can get around the ground pretty well, lose his man. So I think Gawn will have a bit of trouble trying to shake Hickey off, I think. So that might win us.
I know that, if Hickey does get, if Gawn does get away from Hickey, then I think the thing that Reid has shown this year is his ability to, doesn't always compare. I mean, he wins his fair share against the chop out, but against the top, the main ruck, he's not always competitive in the air, but when it hits the deck, that's where he's like really adding value, like his follow-up tackles, his presence around the ground. So whether that's, Reid on Jackson when he chops in for Gawn, or, maybe he goes in against Gawn anyway. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to watch, but, it's. I mean, obviously, we're going into this in detail because it's it's this point of the season. It's
the only important game. There's no other important game. One.
Without getting ahead of ourselves, if we talk about possible outcomes. So, and I'm not willing to pick a winner here.
I'm not doing it this week.
We can't do it.
No.
But if we win, we get a home prelim at the SCG. Is that right?
That's right.
And if we lose, we get a home semi-final at the SCG.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but if we win, we get a home prelim. Okay. Is that correct?
I think so.
Will it depend on who we come up against? I feel like that's what I thought it was.
I think it's going to be, no matter what, the next game we play up, it's going to be at the SCG.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, I'm not willing to pick a winner because I'm too nervous, way too emotional, high stakes.
And I've just learned from my mistakes in the past to never go ahead and put anything on this podcast as a winner or not. So I'm going to leave that alone. All right.
Well, if that's where we're going to leave the preview, and I think we've had a pretty good shake there. I'm just going to go into a little bit of random tangent here onto finals record related. So since 1996, the Swans have missed the finals only 5 times, and that was in 2000, 2002 under Eid, 2009 under Ruse, and 2019 and 2020 under Horse, most recently during our mini rebuild. We won the 2012 grand final, got smashed in 14, and were robbed. Come on, we were robbed. In the 2016. We've had third place finishes since 1996. We've had it in 1998. We lost to Adelaide in the semi-final. 2005, we finished third and won the flag. Ooh. 2012, we finished third and won the flag. We also finished third in 2013 and 2022. I don't have our eventual where we finished in 13. I didn't finish that homework there, sorry. But the point is, third is not a bad place to finish for us and our own track record.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, it's actually not a bad place to finish when you look at the last 10 years of premierships.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years, 5 premiership teams have finished the home and away season in third and gone on to win. So 5 teams have gone on to win. So they've gone on to win the premiership. So 2012, Sydney, 2015, Hawks, 2017, Richmond, 2019, Richmond, 2020, Richmond.
All of them finishing in third place on the ladder, home and away.
Yeah.
Right.
Conversely, if you finished in first, in the last 10 years, if you finished first at the end of the home and away season, only 2 of those have gone on to win the premiership.
Surprising, isn't it? And second, again, only 2 times in the last 10 years.
7th, once, the outlier.
Don't
Western
bring that
Water.
up.
Bloody hell. Robbed.
Why'd you say it?
Oh, mate. Okay. So obviously we all know this is, I'm preaching to the choir here. Grand final appearances, 96, we lost, finished first. 2005, we won, finished third. 2006, we lost, bloody close, finished fourth. 2012, we won, finished third. 2014, we lost, finished first. 2016, we lost, finished first. Under Horse, we've gone to the finals in 10 of his 12 years in charge.
Incredible. And those 2 years were granted, like as you said, rebuilds. There were many rebuilds. We lost a lot of great players that year and they're all getting old. And we were filling up the team with younger players and bleeding them more along the way. Can't complain. Not going to complain about 10 of the last 12 years. Absolutely superb stuff from the Swannies.
Yeah. 21 final games. We've had 10 wins, 11 losses. So obviously we'd rather more wins than losses there. But as we said, under Horse, 2012 premiership, 14 a smacking, 2016 daylight robbery.
Yeah.
So look, this is the context.
Yeah.
We're not reading into it. I know some Swans fans have gone, you beauty, what a good omen. And like we understand the sentiment. We're just as one-eyed as you are. But look.
That's not a statistic that I'd be driving home too much, I think.
Stats can always change, right?
There's always outliers.
Yeah.
And it looks great. Of the last 10 years, third place won the premiership, of course. And and we're only there because Brisbane did not put up a fight against Melbourne. Let's be fair. So it is what it is. It's an interesting stat. Would I rely on it in any way, shape, or form? Absolutely not. Each game is individual. This week against the Dees is going to be an insanely tough game, hopefully in front of a really loud red and white crowd there down the MCG that I'll be going to. It's going to be a stressful few weeks if the home and away season was stressful enough.
Do you want to just like talk about what might happen if we win and or lose? Like this is like a little bit off the cuff here, but
go for it.
So as we all know, we're playing the Dees on the Friday night in the first qualifying final. If we win, as we've said, we believe we have a home prelim, and that will be against the winner of this team. We should have prepared this. Sorry. We're looking at a picture here that the AFL puts out.
Between the Dockers and the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the Dockers and the Bulldogs and the Cats and the Pies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, I'm inclined to say that I think the Pies are going to upset the Cats.
Yeah.
At the MCG.
Oh, you think?
I do.
I don't. I think the Cats are going to be...
They're too good?
I think the Pies, albeit have had a great run and have been arsey along the way, but I don't see them being able to be the quality of the Cats are. I think the Cats are going to have their number. Okay, so then the Pies will meet the winner of the Dockers and the Bulldogs, and that's the Dockers and the Bulldogs in Perth. And I was there in Perth for work last week, and that's why we're late recording this. And there was a buzz on the street. Oh, it should be.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people talking about footy. And look, I think the Dockers should hopefully get the job done. So that is Pies and Dockers, and then whoever wins that will play. If we beat Melbourne, that's who will play.
Yep.
Either the Pies or the Dockers, and because we finished above them, it will be an SCG final.
Yep.
If we lose, we will play the winner of Brisbane or Richmond.
Yeah. That's a game that's hard to pick.
I would rather avoid that latter one.
Yeah, I think both those teams can get on. I mean, Brisbane's played ordinary, but they have been fighting for top 4 for a good chunk of this season. So you can say what you want against Brisbane. You can hate on them. You can say that they've been pretty ordinary, and they have been. I've watched some games where they've just been awful, and they just are not firing off. I don't think I've seen a game this year where they've actually, kicked in the third gear and done a good job of it. But they're obviously good enough. So let's see where that ends up. The Tigers are also this time of year.
The Tigers, for me,
Scary.
are Smokies because
Scary team.
They're sitting in 7th, right? And as I said earlier, they are the best attacking team. They've scored the most points. They are...
And they get back Dusty. Dusty comes back.
No. So, look, if that's an ace...
Remember that guy? Norm Smith medals and all that goes with it?
Oh, he was coming to Swans for a while, wasn't he?
That's right.
All right, well, look, you've already mentioned you're going to be there.
Yep.
You're going to be at the game. I can't make it, but, you're going to meet up with some Swans fans down there.
Yeah, a few Swans fans down there, a couple of fans. Looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to head over to the Rising Sun down at South Melbourne, which is said to be the premier Swannies venue for a pre-gamer. So I'm so pumped about this. I'm taking a day off work. I'm just going to head up there and not think of anything but just the game. So stressed out, but excited all at the same time.
So the average crowd numbers, surprisingly, the Dees have pipped us this year, 36,000 on that. Well, not surprisingly. I mean, they're premiers. So if they can't get big numbers now, and they're in Melbourne, if they can't get big numbers now, when can they?
Yeah.
Right. The Swans have had about 30,000 per game, and that's over the course of home and away. So look, I guess I'm appealing, and you're going, so I can't really, I can't. Yeah, I apologise for not being able to make it, but I guess we're appealing our South Melbourne brothers and sisters, our Cygnets and Swanlings down there, to really come out and make this a home game for the Swannies. I want us to see big numbers, lots of red and white, and really getting up in the faces of these demons.
Look, considering the amount of fans that are at the North game, at the Saints game, I don't see why we wouldn't have a explosive crowd at the MCG. The South Melbourne fans have been turning up in absolute droves in the last few years. Obviously before that, but of recent time, it's just been particularly special in the last few weeks in particular, where we are outnumbering our opposition fans. Can't say enough about those people down in South Melbourne. Incredible stuff down there.
So here, just on the home front, we're going to be meeting up probably at one of the guys' homes. Our families will be there. It should be a great. I might go, I might not. I'm just trying to figure that out. But yeah, it's either way. If you're watching on TV, if you're at the crowd, if you're at the game, up the Bloods.
Up the Bloods.
Up the Bloods.
Oh my God,
it's a big one.
If anyone else is nervous, let us know, because we are sure as hell nervous and all excitement. I'm not going to sleep properly for the next few days. It's not fair, but that's football. That's the season. So, hey, Dees versus the Swannies down at the MCG for the first final for our year. It's going to be massive.
Yep. So this episode will come out obviously tonight, be in your ears tomorrow, and then we'll have teams and other news. We'll be reacting to news along the way this week, so keep looking out for us. That brings us to the end of this episode. On behalf of the Bevy, I'd like to say thank you to all you Cygnets and Swanlings out there listening in. Make sure to keep following us on Instagram and Facebook at A Bevy of Bloods for our various content updates and announcements. As I just said, until then, up the Bloods and can you Swannies!